Hello, beautiful being. Third time lucky. I hope it really works this time. First time I was outside in the garden and the live stopped working. Second time came in here and my husband sent me a message as a comment on the bottom of the thing and said, "There's no share link, I can't share it." So I'm going to try again. And if this doesn't work, I'll have to do it another day, I think. 3 times is a charm, one way or the other. So I'm inside, just in case that helps, and I am enjoying rocks. This is what it normally takes, rain or bad weather to do rocks. But today, because this is just really not working very well, I'm staying inside just to make sure it's not the Wi-Fi contributing to the problem. It's probably Facebook having a problem somewhere, and that happens when you have, a huge network of technology and infrastructure that spans the globe. Sometimes things don't work perfectly, so it is how it is. But hopefully this one will work. And if it doesn't, I will do it tomorrow. So here we go. Rocks, beauty. Because I like to give people a chance to find this and to get on. For it to turn up on the feed so that my husband can share it. And you can find it. And with any luck, I can find... Oh, there it is. There it is. I found something that I've looked for years in this crystal. And I was just doing it. There he is. I can see that he's found the live, so it's turned up in the feed. But if you look through the bottom of this rock, and you don't get distracted at just the wrong time, there's a shiny bit that goes all colourful because there is a little rainbow in there. But I've lost it again. I think it's this place. And anyway, it's a lovely crystal. You can see this is very transparent. You can see right inside it. And then there are all of these lines, these layers of crystal that grew. G'day, beautiful. Yay, it's working. Third time lucky. This live is working. Hey! And then, you think, oh, that's flat. Hi, Barbara, it's you. And then it zigzags. And then it's cloudy on top. Look at this. It's just this fabulous rock, which I really enjoy. I don't have many polished stones. I kind of prefer to get them in the shape that they grew, but this one is so beautiful. Look at that. It's like if you had the right kind of eye, you could see straight down through that stripe between the layers. It's just glorious. So I like to share rocks first because I'm going to talk about God of Me, this project that I'm doing. There's the rainbow. Yay, I found it. See that sort of shiny bit in the middle? There you are, and there's another bit. There is water in this stone, but it's deep, and you've got to find it right. Hi, Faye! So this isn't actually a crystal show, but I just like giving people time to come on. This is an absolute fave of mine. I picked 2 rocks. I was outside, the live fell over. This is the 3rd time I've gone live today, so I'm very excited that it's working. Oh, thank you, Faye. That's terribly sweet of you to say. Actually, I do, but the camera is very flattering, and so is the light. This is fluorite, and look, you can just, if I catch the light right, you can see how blue it is. Blue, purple, it's fabulous. And I know there's a lot of reflection there, but that actually is its colour that you can see. And from memory, it's pretty hard to get the light coming through it because the window's over there and because of where the camera is. But it's just this fabulous piece of blue, purple fluorite. And it's glorious. If you hold it up just right, you can see the light coming through it. So I'm really enjoying that, and it's lovely having you on. Thank you for jumping on with me. So I'm going to start raving about God of Me now. Now that I'm finally live, yay! So today, God of Me, this project where I'm writing the words for a website, and my husband is drawing pictures. And if you scroll down the Oneness Evolving feed, or if you go to the God of Me page, you will see the pictures. We are looking at how these people, these characters that are going to illustrate God of Me concepts, going to look. And it's kind of like saying, well, which tree should I have when there's millions and millions of trees? Which particular one? What style? Anyway, so we're working on that. So you'll see the pictures if you take a look. And you can follow the journey on Patreon, and there's links, okay? But let me get to the story of today, because every Wednesday morning in New Zealand, so it's probably for most of you it's Tuesday if you hear this live, Other days, if you watch it on YouTube or catch the replay, and thank you for watching. Every Wednesday morning, I carve out time. I actually reorganized my working week, made my other days longer, so I could take this morning once a week to write, because I was trying to do it in the evenings and I realized this is just not happening. I need to be able to focus. So this morning, I always go back to not where I finished last week. I go and review what I did the week before. And I did this and I realized I was still finding gaps. I was still finding holes. Because last week I did a lot of connecting the dots and talking about how is it that we can get addicted to our own negative emotions. We can get addicted to positive emotions too, by the way. But we get stuck in emotional chemical. It's a neurochemical addiction, just like drug, except that we do it to ourselves with our thoughts. And I've got to explain that properly before I can talk about how you get out of it. So I've been doing that, and I found today, I thought I was going to do a lot of new material, but actually I did a lot of refinement. And particularly last week I told this story about a spaceship, a big spaceship in a huge fleet that's out in space, and there are all these shuttles that are whizzing around each one of these ships, and they bring things to the ships and they take them away, and it's all about the docking ports on the ships and how the shuttles get in and out, and they send signals into the ship. And it's an analogy for the cell and what happens when a peptide that's produced from your brain because you had a thought goes into your body, goes to your cell, goes to a receptor on the cell, interacts with the receptor on the cell, and then a message is sent into the nucleus and a protein is produced. And that protein is used to make your body go, right? And there's a very direct connection, and I found some gaps because I want to be able to explain that connection really clearly and really simply without getting into a ton of biochemistry, because then it's no longer simple. I don't want to be distracted by that. But I also want to make it clear, and so I filled in some gaps. And one of the things that I wanted to do was give a proper example of how this actually, what does that look like? It's a great concept, but what do you actually mean? And I actually wrote a story about insulin, because insulin is a peptide, right? Most people know what insulin, at least that insulin exists. Well, insulin is a peptide which your body helps your body get get sugars from your bloodstream into your cells where they're burned as fuel. So your cell can run because it's got fuel. Everything needs fuel, especially our cells. And if you have receptors and you have insulin, but the receptors, those little docking stations on the outside of the spaceship, if they don't open up to receive the insulin, no energy gets into the cell. So now the person is tired because their cell doesn't have any energy, and there's all this blood, all this sugar running around in their blood, which is a problem. And so then that sugar gets mopped up and stored as fat. And that's why people who have diabetes can tend to have trouble with weight gain, but for precisely that reason. It's not going where it needs to be. And you're right, Faye, there's a correlation between lack of sweetness in life. But this is how it goes from I'm thinking all these thoughts into our cells. G'day, Augusta, sweetie! So I want to explain how that actually works. And so the problem was that I wrote that example and I thought, oh, hang on a minute, but where does the insulin actually come from? And then I looked it up and I thought, oh, it doesn't come from the brain. I mean, look, peptides are made, and the body runs on peptides. 95% of all the signaling in our body is from peptides. But the peptides that make the insulin do its job are made in the pancreas. And I thought, oh, okay, I've got to go back to square one. So I had a moment of thinking, oh, God, this is going to be complicated. And then I tuned into my inner genius and realized, oh, I know how to tell this story using the stress response. So the stress response, if you think a fearful thought, and this is what I looked up and this is what I wrote, and I thought, I can do this. This is true. If you think a fearful thought, there is a neurotransmitter that your neurons will make to get that fearful thought from neuron A to neuron B to neuron C to neuron D and all the other neurons involved in that fearful thought, because there'll be hundreds of them. Those glutamate neurotransmitters, glutamate is a neurotransmitter, signal another part of your brain, which is called the hypothalamus, to make a signaling peptide, a neuropeptide called CRH, corticotropin releasing hormone. But I prefer CRH because, whatever that means, I understand, but lots of people won't. So the glutamate makes another part of your brain make this CRH. The CRH goes into your bloodstream and goes down to your adrenal glands, makes your adrenal glands produce adrenaline. Just about everybody understands that you get a hit of adrenaline when you're excited or when you're scared or you're angry. Adrenaline is in there, right? It's the thing that makes you go, boom, good, bad, or otherwise. It's an excitement, it's an arousal, it's a go faster, do more. And that adrenaline, once it comes out of your adrenal glands, goes to your eyes and makes your pupils dilate. Now you're really seeing well because there's danger and you need to see it. Big love, Faye. Lovely to see you. Now all of your airways and your lungs open up because you need to get lots and lots of air in. Because you're going to run, you're going to fight, or you're going to hide. Hi, Jenna. Great to see you. This is what happens, right? So the adrenaline makes our lungs bronchodilate. Bronchodilator. You know the Ventolin that people take when they have asthma? It's synthetic adrenaline. It makes the bronchioles dilate. Well, that's what our body does. So those bronchodilators are just imitating what our body does. So we get that. It makes our heart pump faster. We have a rise in blood pressure because then that helps our heart to get oxygen and nutrients to our muscles so we can run faster, fight harder, or hide more quickly. So that we have a fearful thought. If the thought is strong enough, it's got to cross a threshold, and I haven't talked about that yet. But if the thought is strong enough, that's what's going to happen. That is literally what we do. And so this is the power of a single thought. And I have this little section where I'm saying, this is the power of a single thought. If you have a single thought that's powerful enough, that's what can happen. Bernadette, lovely to see you, honey. So I've explained that really well now. I've explained that to my satisfaction. I'm really pleased about that. And of course, then there's the power of a repeated thought. And I thought, well, how am I going to make this real? And I thought, well, I actually did that stressful thought thing for 20, 30 years, probably longer. I don't know when I started. It was just normal for me. So I tell this story because I remember when I was 21, I was miserable. I wasn't sleeping well. I was very tired. I was at university, which I was enjoying, but there was all sorts of stuff going on in my life. I was really unhappy. I was very angry with some people who hurt me. I was really stressed with stuff that was going on in my life. And I remember these horrible thoughts that used to go round and round in my head. Some of them I actively kept going because I was so angry and I was thinking about hurting that person that had hurt me. I was never going to do it. Hi, Victor. But, it was like I was addicted to those really hateful thoughts, and they were horrible thoughts. I didn't know what I was doing to myself. I did not understand. If I had understood, I would have done something different. It's like, duh, this is not rocket science when you understand how direct the correlation is. Now, if you think, and I was thinking those hateful, horrible thoughts for at least 10 or 15 years before I finally realized one day, this isn't hurting that person, it's hurting me. And I, stopped. But that was, I don't know how long, it might have been 20 years before I finally realized it's not a good idea. But anyway, I was 21 and unhappy, and there was stressful stuff going on. And I was also living in a place where I realized now there was a lot of dust and who knows what else. But I started to get sick all the time. And I just got cold after cold after cold, and it wasn't like a few days. I would get a cold and it would be 3 weeks and I'd be coughing and hacking, and it was disgusting. I got chest infections and I was blowing my nose heaps of, this is horrible. And it took ages for them to go away. Andrea, ages. Hello, sweetie. So, I just got sick all the time. Couldn't sleep. I was miserable. And life went on. I didn't think that there was anything unusual about that. I didn't know there was a problem. I was uncomfortable. I was miserable. My back hurt, tra-la-la. But nobody suggested that there could be anything else. or that this wasn't normal. Maybe 15 years later, and I don't know when, so don't ask, I started working with a doctor who practiced functional medicine. And you do a raft of blood tests. It's a very holistic assessment. She looked at everything. And I discovered that my thyroid function was low and my adrenals were fatigued. Now, if you think about that story I just told you about how you think a thought and you get the glutamate and you get the CRH and then you get the adrenaline, which your adrenals have to make, I've been pumping out adrenaline, really, pretty much non-stop, 20 years. Of course my adrenals got tired. I mean, hello. I also managed to nuke my thyroid in the process. Because what happens is when you have lots of stress chemicals in your body, they turn off your immune system. It's part of the stress response. If you are busy escaping from a tiger, it's not important to heal injuries or fight off invaders or anything at that time. All the energy goes into escaping the current threat. And that's fine. If you run away from the tiger and you survive, cool. Everything goes back to normal and now you have an immune system again. But if you're like me and you were anxious or stressed or angry or fearful or whatever, and I was probably all of those for 20, 30 years, well, the body never gets to heal itself. And so the immune system gets dysregulated, that's a fancy word, it gets out of control, unbalanced, and you start to get antibodies against the thyroid. So I had Hashimoto's, I had, lowered thyroid function. The really cool thing is, hi Michelle, lovely to see you. The really cool thing is, and this is, this is the story of God of me. And by the way, the story of God of me is not the story of Oneness Evolving, who used to be Maddie. It isn't about that, but I tell this story to illustrate it. This is actually what it looks like. And it often doesn't happen immediately, right? You can think a crappy thought for a while. Laurie, great to see you. But if you do it over and over and over and over and over again, you're going to wear those cells and receptors and the very DNA that the protein, which, the thing that makes everything work, is made from, that actually gets worn out as well. Like when you take a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy. I mean, the quality degrades. There's a whole process that goes on there where the genes change. I'm not going to talk about it now. So this is what I decided. I decided to put this little story in about me to make it real. Because, and the good news is, yes, my functional medicine doctor did help me address that. I started taking replacement thyroid hormone. Bioidenticals is what we did, and we did bioidentical adrenal hormone, which was a godsend because it meant I could function. And we did a raft of things, and some of them helped. And I mostly managed to heal I did manage to heal my adrenals doing those physical things, but I couldn't get off the thyroid medication. That only changed. My immune system started to regulate better when I started doing the meditation work of Dr. Joe Dispenza. That was what did it. I'd reduced it down, but I couldn't get off it. And so it gave me the immune regulation that I did not have. And a year or so later, I noticed the asthma I'd acquired when I was 21 went away as well. It just went. I didn't need it anymore. My immune system was better regulated. And that was also about the same time when I realized, oh my God, I have been anxious my entire life. And I didn't know. Because it was gone. And I mean, I've been working, this sort of the top level anxiety had gone. And then I realized how much more fear I had to unprogram and get out of my body. Fear's been the dominating thing for me. Everyone's different. But this is the story I'm telling. That this is how it works. This is what it looks like. And we can change it. And yeah, you have to look after your body and do things for your body. But you can do everything for your body and still be pushing shit uphill, to be honest. So I discovered, I'm going to check the time. Oh yes, I don't know when I started, but I'm getting close. Because I started late because this is the third time I went live today. So, there's all these things and we have to work with both. I firmly believe, as does Dr. Joe, that you have to work with both. You have to treat your body well. You have to look after your body well. But there's just things that you can't fix unless you change how you think and how you feel, because how you think and how you feel directly affects the signaling of your DNA. Bottom line. So I love explaining this stuff. I find it really empowering. Now there was a couple of cool facts that I found when I was, and one of the things I've got to do more is explain proteins, but my story about the spaceship where, the shuttle docks in, the crew of the shuttle goes to the factory part of the ship with some orders. And the factory part of the ship looks up, oh, you're so lucky, Andrea. Awesome. Read, learn, apply. I know you're into it. Awesome. Fantastic. So in the factory part of the ship, the factory part of the ship looks up this massive library of patterns for spare parts. Of course, the spare parts are the proteins, right, that are made from the DNA. The patterns are in the DNA. And I was thinking, well, how many proteins are there in the body? And first thing is that nobody really knows. But the estimate is that we have 80 to 400,000 kinds of different proteins in our bodies. Which is like, really? Oh my God. And also there's great disagreement about how many genes we have in our bodies. But the point is that we don't need to know how many proteins or which specific one or which specific variation of all the umpteen gazillion different kinds of variations that you can have from one gene, because there's many, one gene that can express itself so many different ways. The thing that affects how that gene expresses is how we think and how we feel habitually, repeatedly, over and over and over again, all day, all week, all year, all our life long. And we're getting closer now. I wrote, I've nearly got my pieces in the puzzle in place, and I'm just about, next week I think I will really get to talk about proteins in the way that I want to explain them. And then I can really start talking about, okay, so what happens when we do signal the cell too often? It gets tired. And I've already explained a bit of that, about how the receptors change to accommodate the fact that they're being hammered with stress hormones all the time. What would happen if we could change our cells so that they were used to getting hammered with happy hormones all the time? How would that change how our bodies function? Can you imagine that? That's the reverse, right? We can be addicted to negative emotions, or we can be addicted to positive ones. It doesn't matter. We get to choose. So that was really cool. There's so many proteins. And ultimately, we do not need to know which one or how, we just get to choose our thoughts and our feelings. And why is that so hard? And that's the reason why I want to explain emotional addiction. So that's what I did this week. And I'm very glad that I managed to get live, because it wasn't working for a while. I'm just delighted that you shared this with me. I do invite you to check out what I'm doing on Patreon for a very reasonable little subscription. You can be involved, you can support the project, you can ask me questions about anything, and you can get patron-only things. And if you're on YouTube, I thank you for watching, especially staying with me all this time. And I invite you to like and share and subscribe. So until then, and guess what? It's official now. It is actually official. I got the email. I've still got to get a new birth certificate. My name has changed. I am now officially Oneness, Noneness Evolving. So I'll have to keep saying that for a long time, I'm sure, because everybody knows me as Maddie. But Maddie, I am no longer. I've changed so much. I'm just somebody else. So that's a whole nother story. Until next week, I send you lots of love and look forward to seeing you then with another update. Bye-bye.